I'm old. I'm about to be 25 in a couple days. Looking at it from a bigger picture, 25 is obviously not that old. I mean, in math terms, I've lived around about a third of my life, hopefully. What have I done with it so far? Honestly, not that much. I was going to make a video detailing the past couple years of my life and how I've been trying to crawl out of a dark place, but decided against it pretty far into the script because I want to wait for more things to happen, so there's somewhat of a better ending. Here's a TLDR of it for right now. Basically, I dropped out of Rutgers after my first year in 2019, I started working full-time and then went to community college. COVID came and wreaked havoc. I worked full-time on and off and finished with my associate's degree after a couple years. Then I haven't worked in about a year, did nothing, and now I moved across the country to go back and finish college to right the ship. Okay, obviously that omits a lot of details, but for the most part it covers everything. I've always viewed myself taking a road less traveled on, in hopes of just living a very modest life, making enough money not to worry about it while having a beautiful wife and kids, a house, and a little farm. By road less traveled on, I basically mean not working a 9-to-5 schedule. Specifically, I want to own my own family business, or something along the lines of that to fund my life. It's quite the grind, but I feel like it'll bring myself more fulfillment. The way I always pictured life was that it just happened. Everything would come together like a nicely fit puzzle. And for some people, that is true. But what observers don't see is the hard work that goes in behind closed doors. Living in easy times has warped my own view that everything will just appear and work out good. That is just not the case. At 25 years old and re-looking back at my life, I've realized just how much time I've wasted doing nothing. Everyone has their own speed at which they progress through life, and there's nothing wrong with not having anything accomplished at 25. But I can't help but be a little sad seeing people I graduated high school with having kids and getting married. I don't have any more personal social media, so I'm not obsessed or anything like that. Like, I'm happy for them, but then it makes me question myself. What have I been doing? Are there things I'm proud of myself for? The answer is yes, there is. I'm proud of myself for making it this far. For example, I'm currently living across the country in Arkansas going back to school. The other question of what I've been doing, well, that one for sure has some regrets. The main one is that I wish I didn't waste so much time mindlessly consuming content like anime, YouTube, and video games. I enjoyed those times consuming it and have a stronger nostalgia for it, but being honest, I should have balanced it better. The thing is though, I try not to linger on these regrets and look forward. I have a great indicator to see if I'm depressed or not. That indicator is how nostalgic I'm feeling at any given time. Probably since graduating high school, I've lost sight of the future. When I was younger, like 14 to 18 years old, I had grand ideas about where I would be in life at 25. I always imagined myself living in a house with some friends having a grand old time. I grew up watching YouTubers living in houses together, and being the oldest kid in my family, that was all I could expect. Quite naive of me, but it was a dream of mine. Younger me could not have expected what has happened over the past couple years. I don't think it's possible for me to talk about getting older without mentioning one of the most significant things to happen during our lifetimes: COVID. I'm not even sure how to talk about it, since everyone perceives it differently. Luckily, I didn't lose anyone to it, but it drastically changed my view on the world and how fickle our society really is. This topic is for another video, but in essence, this time period made me lose hope about the future. I don't know if I ever fully recovered mentally from this time period. Because of this shattering of reality, my life pre-20s now seems like a pipe dream. This might just be a part of growing up, the childish hopes and dreams fading away in your 20s. I'm not too sure. Now, being in my mid-20s is a really weird feeling. I can recall when I was 16 years old, imagining that this day would never come. It was so far away that it couldn't possibly happen. Well, we're here. I mentioned I'm back in college right now, and I have to take a couple freshman classes since I never needed to take something like an extra art or an extra science class for my associates. It is wild being around kids fresh out of high school. It makes me feel so old. Like, for example, I'm almost the same age as one of my professors, which makes me feel really bad. Or even simple things like seeing all the NFL players being younger than me. It's a weird feeling that I can't really describe. You kind of just know once you're there. Seeing people around me age is also a difficult thing to witness. One of the biggest realizations I've had is that people aren't actually that much older than you. There's math behind it to prove it, but just think about being 16 years old and picturing 21-year-olds at that time. They used to feel so old. But now that I'm 25 and I see 30-year-olds and I kind of feel like we're the same age. I think it's very easy to get caught up in overthinking about things and comparing yourself to others when it doesn't really do you any good. I fall victim to it more than I would like to. I mean, just look at what type of video I'm making right now. That's a large reason why I got rid of all my personal social media stuff, because I felt like it was doing more harm to me than it was doing any good. Plus, knowing everything about everyone is quite pointless and leaves you with less to talk about in person. This is a weird age period because right now I'm too young to have a career, but I'm also too old to be considered a kid. Most of us have to eat shit at this point and grind our way up. Getting your footing to start is, in my opinion, the hardest part of it all. Yet it's also the most important time of our lives. Setting yourself up early can be a huge help later in life. It's not the end all be all, but it's pretty important. My issue has been setting everything up. There's too many options, and with the world being in a precarious place, I have no clue what to do. That's why I went back to finish college. As for insights or anything like that, it's that adults are mostly just big kids. While there is truth in saying that you get wiser with age, I believe that's also due in part to our elders growing up in a more serious world. And by elders, I don't refer to those asshole politicians. I'm talking about the random old Vietnam veterans, or the people who grew up in the Great Depression. They are few and far between, but they have valuable insight on things we take for granted and don't think about. Like recently in human history, especially first world countries, there's been a movement to think about young adults as kids for longer. I know COVID impacted this, but I feel like it was happening before then too. I mean, personally, I really don't feel like a 25-year-old. I feel like I'm closer to 20. But in general, people are having kids later in life, moving out later, marrying later, whatever else you can think of, it's probably happening later in life compared to previous generations. There's plenty of reasons for this, and I don't want to get too sidetracked with this topic, but let me say this. There's two main drivers in this phenomena. One is the economy. I think we can all agree that everything is expensive as shit nowadays. You can blame Biden, you can blame Trump, you can blame Obama. It doesn't really matter who you finger point at. The issue is going to persist. When people have no money, they have no kids, they can't move out, and they can't afford relationships. The number two issue, and this is especially true post-COVID, is that a large chunk of Americans have lost our identities. Young men and women are more politically divided than ever, and for even non-political followers, this infiltrates your lives too. We have a perpetual cycle in which men and women don't have the same vision for the future, and in turn, that leaves a hopeless feeling inside. Realistically, for all of human history, the goal of life was to reproduce. The woman cared for the child, and the man provided food and shelter. You can call this sexist way of thinking, you can call this whatever you want to think. It's just true. This way of life has been drastically altered over the past 100 years or so, and now we're currently living in times where we have to adapt. I'm not saying that this change is right or wrong, I'm in no place to judge that. What I do know is that it affects me and a lot of others, and that we have to figure out some sort of middle ground for us to move on. And I think the best way to start that would be to get the economy fixed. Enough with the general terms though. Personally, I just don't talk to anybody other than my boys, which obviously won't get me anywhere with any woman. The first step I need to take in order to quote-unquote start my life is to actually talk to people of the opposite gender. If you're watching this video until this point, I guess you might have the same kind of problem. So we can hop in this boat together and figure that out ourselves. The way I want to end this video is to finish on this note. Life will take twists and turns, and will likely end up in places you didn't expect to be. Sometimes you can exceed those expectations or not even come close to them. No matter where you end up, it's okay. Don't let the future overwhelm you and just focus on short-term goals. These goals will add up and bring you to whatever long-term goal you might have. There is no end goal in life except death. Putting too much weight on anything else actually just brings problems. With modern medicine, it's never too late to try out new ventures. Blaming the world around us won't solve anything. We must take action that provides change to our lives if you aren't where you want to be. Even though I feel like I haven't done much with my life yet, things can change fast, and I'm very excited for what the future holds. It's the first time I can genuinely say that in a long time. Even though I'm getting older, and it's quite shocking to think about, there's nowhere to go except forward. Thank you for listening to my ramble. I plan on uploading more again, so if you have anything you want me to talk about, comment that below.